Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for today's Hay Group Reward in Argentina webinar. My name is Krista, and I'm part of Hay Group's team in Philadelphia. I'd like to let you know a couple of items about today's webinar. The webinar is going to be in listen-only mode, and you'll be able to send your questions through the chat feature, which you'll see on your screen. Any questions that are sent through, we hope to address at the end of today's presentation. There will also be a series of live polling questions available for you to answer so we can better steer today's presentation. Today's call is scheduled for about an hour, and our presenter, Luis Arisban, will walk you through the presentation. Now, I'd like to introduce you to Luis, who is part of Hay Group's team in Argentina. Luis has been with Hay Group for just about 10 years, and he leads our information services for Latin America and also manages our diagnostic services, including talent and employee effectiveness. Now I'd like to pass it over to Luis to get us started today.
Okay, thanks everybody to attend this presentation. It's a pleasure for me to share with you about rewarding in Argentina. First of all, I want to say that we have a agenda for this presentation, give you an overview about our country, some economic indicators, and of course, talk about the current issues that we have to know when we think in reward in Argentina. It's a difficult issue, there are difficult issues, but at the same time, it's a challenge to manage. I think you know in some case, and you starting to get a better understanding about how was the reward in Argentina. Of course, we'll be talking about the salary increase, what happened this year, and what are the expectations for the next year, and a little view about compensation management, and some conclusion and recommendations to share with you. First of all, I want to ask you about if you, in your organization, if you have an operation in Argentina, just put yes or no in the webinar to give an idea about your, okay? Thank you. And well, 100%. Okay, excellent. And the other one is if you are planning to expanding your operation in Argentina. Okay, excellent. Thank you for your answer. We will start with an overview about our country. I don't know if everybody knows Argentina or Buenos Aires, the main city in our country. Our population is over 4 million. If you see the latest census in 2010, the government is a federal republic, democratic republic, and we have 23 states in our country, and of course the currency is Argentinian peso. If you talk about Argentina, you need to know about football, you need to know about asado, you need to know about wine, the red wine in Mendoza, and there is a details. Okay, let's go. Another one. We will start with the economic indicators. Of course, we will have a deeper discussion in our presentation talking about the official and unofficial inflation rate. But just to start and to give you an idea about some indicators, we will talk about the GDP evolution. Of course, if you see the last 8 years, the economic growth, as you can see in the presentation, from the last 8 years, and the expectation for the next year is to maintain the growth, but will be slowly, because there is an impact for the international crisis from Europe, from the States, and something like that, and the expectation is maybe the slow will be slower in Argentina, but also in the region, in LATAM region. Talking about the exchange rate, the official exchange rate is around, for 2012, around 4.6, 4.7 now, and it's changing every day. And in 2013 will be the forecast is 4.8 pesos, and for 2014 it's around 5, the expectation. The unemployment is the lowest in the last 10 years, is around 7.2%. Of course, there is a business confidence, there is a growth scenario in the economy, but there is not all good news. Of course, we need to talk about the inflation rate, and we'll be talking about in details about the inflation rates, the official and unofficial. Go ahead. To start, it's important to see the Latin America context. If you see the Latin American context, we can recognize that there is the region as a region has been growing at least on average 5% in the last 8 years. We still remain with a strong Brazil present in our economy. It's the main market for our exports. We start to see from the last 5 years a better relationship between countries in the region. As example of this is UNASUR, and also the regional blocks called Mercosur, who include Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Venezuela. We are talking about growth in the last 8 years in a regional context, and we start to see in the market with our clients a war for talent, and of course a high demand for specific knowledge from the people, and there is a potential issue also in terms of the reward and human resource management. When we see the local context, we recognize that the 2013 and 2014 the growth will be slower if you compare with the last year. The demand on consumption will be growing, but at the same rate if you compare with the growth. Of course, there is an expectation for remain a high inflation index, and the coexistence of two indexes. We will be talking about that in the next slide. The prevalence that we call, and the other one is the official. We will talk in detail about this issue. And the impact of this in terms of the salary administration is the salary overlapping that we recognize in the last 8 years also. Of course, there is a different criteria with the union staff salary increase and also the non-union staff, and we will be talking about that. The union has a presence in the last 8 years, a strong presence, and of course the negotiation between sector with the unions are it's a very hot issue in our country. And the government is trying to implement rules to preserve the balanced trade, and of course there is a focus to preserve the relationship between export and imports from the government. It's another issue that we need to take aware about to understand the economy in Argentina. To start to to talk about the issues to manage the reward in Argentina, we will start with the inflation. We know, and I think all of you know about there are two inflation rates in Argentina, the official and we call it the real one. And to understand in deeper way this, we will talking about unions, the union staff and non-union staff also, and the impact of this, talking about the salary overlapping. When we start to talk about the inflation rate, we can clearly see a disparity. Next slide, please. We can see a clear disparity between the inflation, official inflation, and private and the inflation measured from private source like Meconian, Fiel, or Ecolatina. If you try to see the impact of this difference, you will see in the presentation, it's around, for 2012, the expectation for the government is around 10%, and the private source is around 23 or 25%. The inflation projected for 2013 is in the same way that we saw in the 2012, 9.2 for the government and 25 for the private source. But just to put focus on salary movement, we need to understand the unions to understand to get a clear idea about the real inflation, because maybe the private source have different methodologies or criteria to quantify the real inflation. Our business is salary increase, and to understand the real or the main numbers to put on the cocktail and define what is the number to decide a salary increase in Argentina, we need to put focus on what happened with the unions. Of course, when we ask our client about what is the expectation or for 2012 or for 2013, the people talk about the real inflation. It's more close for the real inflation, and the reference is 23% or to 25%. Unions are worker association in Argentina and are prevalent. The personería gremial is a legal collective representation in Argentina, and the process to define the salary increase, we call it paritarias, and are mandatory for the companies to implement the negotiation with unions. When we see on average a company who has to deal with union and ask for the staff in union staff or non-union staff, on average the union staff is around 60% and non-union staff is around 40%. For that reason, it's really important to understand what happened with the unions and what are the percentages with the union in terms of salary increase. If you see next one, if you see the salary negotiation in 2011 or in the last 5 years, comparing union staff and non-union staff, we can see 5 to 6 points on average over the increase in the non-union staff. We start to see from the last 5 years the main issues and the impact, of course, in the salary overlapping for this difference and this different criteria to implement the salary increase in union staff and non-union staff. In 2010 and 2011, the salary adjustment for union staff is around 30%, and they implement in 2 or 3 times a year. Some unions, because you need to understand there are different unions, have an extra year bonus. It's a fixed amount per year, and it's part of maybe some unions could implement 30% or 25% plus an extra bonus or fixed amount in the end of the year. Of course, there is an impact. It's a clear impact when we see the evolution for the salary overlapping. In the last 5 years, from 2008 to 2012, almost 80% of the market has overlapping issues in their business, and the focus for the compensation manager is to retain and develop the non-union staff. Of course, there is another negative impact in the climate and, of course, the engagement and the internal equity. Why is the reason for that? Because the market, when take decision about salary increase in non-union staff, the link is with the business results. It's not about inflation. Of course, there is an issue to get the real inflation in the market because the official is 10% and the real is 20%. But anyway, the criteria to define the salary increase in Argentina in non-union staff in our general market with 90% of our company are business results. And they get a view, of course, in the real inflation, but you need to manage between the salary increase for union staff, around 60% of the population in your company, and 40% you have to deal with the remain, and there has to be a link with the business results. To give you an idea, in this next graph, you will see the difference between, on average, from 2011 to 2012 with union staff and non-union staff. And for that reason, we have to deal with the salary overlapping in our markets. What are the issues when we start to see that? To think about salary increase, the manager has to think about official inflation, real inflation, and also the real market movement. We recommend to see the real market movement with the impact from the union deals or salary increase, and to get a clear view about what is the percentage to move in terms of the salary in our market. The salary overlapping is another issue. The employee retention, because you need to put focus on workers who have to work close to the union staff. There are a lot of companies who have to deal with multiple unions, and also with the problem to find technical skill and for technical position. What the market are doing on this? Of course, salary increase. They are implementing selective salary increase in some roles. All the markets start to put focus, always talking about union staff, in benefit plan. There are another tools like the bonus, exceeding the actual bonus in comparison with the target bonus, and of course a lot of action in terms of training and development. But to conclude of this, the only one solution for salary overlapping is if you agree with the union, 25% is implement the same percentage for all the staff. Of course, there are some sectors or companies that they can do it. It depends on the business performance. But 80% of the market can't do it, and for that reason they need to implement selective adjustment and put focus on total reward statement or total compensation, including, as we talk, selective salary, develop career, and another intangible benefits to keep to maintain the engagement of the people. When we talk about general market moving, we start to see now only non-union staff. The expectation to grow from 2011 to 2012 from the market is around 28-30%. And if you see what happened in the 2010 and to 2011 is around 25%. Indeed, the general market is looking the real inflation to implement the salary movement. To give you a sectorial or sector view about, if you take the reference, the general markets, you can see by sector who are the best paid practices. For example, the oil and gas, of course, natural resource that includes mining and chemicals. Of course, all the sectors that you can see in the best paid practices is related to the business. They can sell all their production in dollars outside of Argentina, for example. Like you see, you can see retail or fast moving FMCG sector around below to the general market because they are linked with the internal market. For 2013, the forecast will be remain or reflecting the real inflation figures, and the salary adjustment will be greater than 20%. And when we ask to our client, they say the projection that we have is around 25%, rated in 2 or 3 times. This is another change that we see in the last 5 years. Almost 90% of the market implements salary increase in 2 or 3 times a year. Talking about compensation management, another thing is about the variable pay, the bonus, the short-term incentive. As you see, senior management is around 100%. Middle management is in the same levels, but we start to see in the last 5 years a supervisory level and professional level, including in this kind of variable pay. Also clerical, and you have the numbers there. At the executive level, you can find 4.6 salaries as a bonus, senior management around 3.5, middle management around 2.5, as the other around 1.9 and 1.6. It is important to use this kind of tool to differentiate the salary perception for non-union staff, because union staff don't care about bonus, they have their bills, and this kind of tool can differentiate our strategy and compensation on the non-union staff. Talking about benefits, prevalence, you can see the health is the more prevalent there, car to middle management at executive level, mobile, life insurance, another one. We will be sharing the presentation, don't worry about the numbers, we will share all the presentation. Okay, some conclusion to share with you. There are three main concerns to manage human resources in Argentina. The first one is talent, retention. The other one, in terms of salary perception, in terms of career development, is employee engagement. And of course, I can imagine the compensation manager in Argentina dealing with this cocktail to create a competitive pay package in these markets. Of course, to do that, they have to put focus on benefits, they have to put focus on intangible benefits, and it's real difficult to manage the competitive pay in Argentina. To summarize, the role of human resource is increasing in complexity. It's not easy to be a compensation manager for Argentina. They have to start to expand the reward package because there are different situations when you compare. For example, in 2009, when the global crisis, and in 2009, for example, we have a inflation rate, the real inflation rate, around 20%, and with companies telling us, okay, you have to manage a frozen salary in Argentina. You can imagine this situation. It's not easy, and they have to balance the two criteria, the international and, of course, the local. They have to put focus on reward package as career opportunities, development, environment and work-life balance, and, of course, see the balance between fixed and variable pay compensation, because it's important, because if you have to pay or take decision in terms with a link with the business, the mix between fixed and variable could be a tool to reduce or to minimize the impact of the salary overlapping. Some recommendation is important. Again, for Argentina, review the compensation strategy. The same rules in Chile, for example, or in Brazil don't work in Argentina. You need to give a local flavor, taking in count or in consideration the inflation, the real inflation, the unions, and this cocktail to create the compensation strategy to be sustainable in Argentina. The other one, and we will be doing, we need to be really careful to give to the employees the link between the pay and performance. When we ask our client, if they talk about inflation for the criteria to salary increase, they don't talk about inflation rate. They talk about performance, merit, and of course they have some link with the real inflation. But nobody implements in our 0% of our clients or our operation in Argentina implements salary increase just for inflation rate or do instead of pay on performance. And of course, our recommendation is to review the balance between the fixed and variable compensation for some level, maybe the lower. And the other one, very important, is to start to reinforce the communication process in total reward. Total reward is the tools to maintain or to motivate and engage the non-union staff. Because you can talk about benefit plan, you can talk about career development, and everywhere in total reward package. Just to share with you how we can help you on this in your business in Argentina. We have a local insight, people who know the market, people who can understand what is your problem, and specific issues that you have to deal in Argentina. We work with global process, with one methodology, global methodologies to support all our information. You can compare with other countries also. We have a lot of market research to share with you from sectors and from different sources that you need, staff or union. We are building continuously our database in Argentina. We cover all the sectors in Argentina, and if you need a specific issues from a specific sector, we can deal with that. And of course, we have a team in our office and ready to answer any question that you need to answer for Argentina. We are pleased to talk with you for any issue that you have in your operation in Argentina.
Okay, thank you, Luis, for conducting today's presentation. Before we get to some of the questions that came through, I just wanted to ask if you guys could, on the call today, could please let us know if you're interested in more information on Hay Group's market data in Argentina. I'll give you about a minute to respond, and then we'll jump right into the Q&A session. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for your response. Just to answer a couple of questions that came in from those of you on the call, Luis, the first question is actually specific to one of the slides. The one slide stated a 25% increase 2 to 3 times per year, and several people had asked if that means the total for the year is 25%, or is it 25% each time the increase happens throughout the year?
It's 25% is in 3 times.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that because several people had the same question.
Okay.
Another question that came through was, do companies generally adjust their salaries for inflation once, twice, or more often throughout the year?
No. As I said, inflation is not part of the communication process for salary increase. They talk about salary movement, market movement, and they talk about performance of the business. Of course, when you see the real inflation, and there are a lot of discussions with the employer about if the real inflation is around 25%, why are you telling me that a great performance, but I received in a year just 20%? It's about business. It's not about inflation. And of course, there is an impact in the purchasing power for the people.
Okay, thank you. Another question that came through is, would you be able to talk about some of the most reliable sources for the real inflation information on Argentina?
Sorry, could you repeat, please?
Sure. Someone had just asked if you could talk a little bit about some of the most reliable sources for real inflation information on Argentina.
Of course, it's Ecolatina, for example, Fiel. There is someone. It's a local consulting business in Argentina. They have a criteria. My recommendation is to check the criteria that they implement and the methodology that they implement to get this inflation rate.
Okay.
Ecolatina, Fiel, for example, are a prepaid source for the inflation rate, more reliable than the official rate.
Okay. Thank you. Another question is it common for employers to grant merit or performance-based increases in addition to inflation adjustments?
If you are in the market don't talk about inflation again. They say if you receive, for example, a year 20%, it's about merit, it's about business performance. They try to avoid to talk about inflation. Of course, there is an issue in our market, the inflation, but the people start to they don't know. We can't find any companies that are working or implementing salary adjustment by inflation in non-union staff. Only in the union staff, because the discussion with union staff is about inflation, because if you see the union staff is operating or blue-collar level, and they need the salary increase to maintain the purchasing power. But for non-union staff, they talk about merit, promotion, or business results.
Okay, thank you, Luis. I think this is a good stopping point. We've actually gotten a lot of questions from you about some specific instances that we'll have your Hay Group account manager, a member of our team, and Luis are going to be available over the next couple of days to reach out and answer your individual questions. Feel free to also contact me if you need anything specific. But one thing I wanted to let everybody know is that following today's webinar, you'll receive a copy of the slides presented, so you'll have all of the information accessible. And like I said, a member of our team will definitely be in touch. I know we received more questions than we were able to address on the webinar. And like I said, your account manager or Luis will be in touch over the next couple of days. Thank you again for attending today's session, and another thank you to Luis for presenting on Reward in Argentina. Enjoy the rest of your day.